don't you come and live with me for a while?
Oh no, I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Is now really the time to be thinking about your pride?
You always need to be thinking about your pride to some extent.
I suppose I know better than most how stubborn you can be. I also know full well that you didn't like me at all when you first got married to my daughter. I know that men's pride is important to them, but what are you going to do now that my poor daughter is no longer with us? Gabriella has barely been weaned. How are you going to raise her all by yourself?
I'm planning on getting remarried.
Well, of course you should get remarried if the right woman comes along, but don't go doing it just for the sake of having a partner. When you do find someone else, I'll stop interfering. But until then, just swallow your pride and let me help you. Live here with me until you can get back on your feet, and I'll help you look after little Gabriella. You need to go to work to make money to support her, don't you? What were you planning on doing? Just leaving her with the neighbors all day? It makes way more sense for you to live here with me. I'm retired and can take care of her all day long whilst you're working. All I need to do is go out briefly in the morning to see how things are going with the mall. I won't stand by whilst you struggle to raise my granddaughter, my own flesh and blood, when I could easily be using all my free time to help you.
I just really don't want to bother you.
And I'm telling you that it won't be a bother at all. This is what I want. As I said, I leave the house every morning at 9 and I'm back by lunchtime. I have nothing better to do other than lie around doing nothing and eat the occasional meal, thinking about how awful it is that my only daughter has left this world before me. Being able to look after Gabriella would give me a new purpose in life, and it would make having to carry on living in a world without her mother in it a little more bearable.
Ma'am, I just wanted to let you know that dinner is ready.
It better be properly cooked. Graham here likes his food to be well done.
Yes, don't worry. I've taken into account your son-in-law's tastes, and I even especially decided to make pork today because I know it's his favorite meat.
You've done well. Thank you for being so considerate.
Please, take a seat and enjoy your meal, Graham. Thank you very much. It really breaks my heart to see how downtrodden you're looking. It looks like you have the weight of the whole world on your shoulders. It's awful enough that you've been left a widower at 27, but being left as a single father as well.
Now, there's no need to make such a fuss over him. He may well up and leave us if he finds a new wife.
Just let me make a fuss anyway.
Graham, what on earth are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing? The grass has gone so thick in the garden, so something needs to be done about it.
Are you really going to get down on your knees and pull it out blade by blade in this scorching sun? You're crazy! You're going to hurt your hands doing that.
Oh, it's fine. I'm wearing garden gloves. And besides, I can't rest until I know that there are no weeds left hiding in here.
You really are so frustrating sometimes. Lawnmowers do exist, you know.
But don't you think it's very typical of him to use the unconventional method and create more work for himself? Just let him be if this is what he wants to do.
What's that you've got there?
Oh, it's a herbal tea blend that I know Graham likes. I thought I would bring a cup to him since he's working so hard out here.
I suppose he is working hard.
I appreciate your acknowledgement.
Why don't you take a break and sit down over here whilst you drink your tea? It's far too warm outside these days.
Yeah, it is especially hot today.
Do you ever think, Graham, about how people's lives are so short in the grand scheme of things?
I suppose they are.
I really don't know what we're going to do now Gabriella's all grown up and flown the nest. You never even did get remarried in the end. What are you going to do all by yourself once I'm gone?
Oh, I have a feeling you're going to be around for a few more years, Nora. You're in great health.
But still, even I won't be around forever. You should go and start looking for a new wife now. You've been single for 30 years, and I think it's about time. Then I can pass away in peace, knowing you'll have some companionship.
I think the ship sailed on me finding someone new. I'm in my late 50s already, and I don't have much to my name. I don't think any self-respecting woman is going to want to marry me.
I told you that if you bring home a nice woman, I'll let you take over my shopping mall, didn't I? Then you will have something to your name. How many times do I need to say it to make you realize that I mean it?
Oh, it's fine. I'm really not interested in managing the mall, and I'm also not interested in getting remarried. I'm happy to spend the rest of my days living in this house just as I have done for the last 30 years. I'll be able to have a comfortable enough life with my pension money.
Do you really think that company is going to give you the pension they promised you when they're on the brink of collapse? If I'm going to have to die and leave you behind, I want to be sure that you're well provided for.
Well, if things don't work out with my pension, then there's nothing we can really do about it.
I've put so much energy into managing this mall, and I really would like to see you take it off my hands.
I appreciate that you like to leave the mall to me, but with all due respect, I'm really not that interested in managing it. Please either sell it and get a decent price or give it to someone who would appreciate it more.
I'm well into my 80s now, and God only knows how much longer I'll last. I really would feel much more at ease knowing you were in a stable position. You're almost 60, and I'd hate to see you suffering as you enter your old age. Although I do admit that having to run this mall is stressful at times. Even though it's small, I've always taken pride in the fact that it's a space where small independent businesses have been able to thrive. Yes, the tenants do need to put down a sizable deposit, but the rent is cheaper than most places around here, which is what gives these smaller businesses a chance to do well when they wouldn't elsewhere because of extortionate rent prices. But because of that, I think some of the tenants have started to get a little too comfortable, and I've been letting them off the hook way too often. For example, the lady who runs this restaurant on the second floor is late paying her rent again. This is the third time this year, and this needs to stop. I'm thinking of telling her she has to get out if she's not going to be consistent with her payments. I need to stop the tenants from thinking I'm soft. This kind of thing has been going on for far too long.
She never changes. She keeps threatening to be harsher on her tenants and never follows through with it.
Ugh, Mom! I'm starting to just think this husband of mine is an outright weirdo.
Shane is a weirdo! What's he done this time?
I mean, so many other people are in the same line of business as him. I don't understand why he keeps going bankrupt and other similar businesses are thriving.
Seriously, Rihanna. I understand that you're frustrated and you want to vent, but there really was no need for you to come over here first thing in the morning just to whine about this again. It's only 9 a.m., and do you know I'm not a morning person?
That's a little harsh, Mom.
I know that you feel comfortable being in my house, but you still should have rung the doorbell or something before just barging in. I wasn't expecting you, so I was still fast asleep.
Thanks a bunch for making me feel better, Mom. I'm already having the worst morning ever, and you're just making me feel worse. You're so annoying. I'm your daughter, not some stranger. I would have thought that I could come and go freely in my own mother's house.
Yeah, it's fine as long as you call or text me in advance saying that you're coming over. But I don't appreciate being woken up by you clattering around my house in the morning when I wasn't expecting you. Please be considerate of this poor old lady and her sleep.
Mom! 9 a.m. isn't even that early. Fine, whatever. Next time I'll make sure to tell you in advance that I'm coming. Now will you please just listen to what I have to say?
Yeah, go ahead. But it has been 3 months since this business failed. I think it's about time you got over it and stopped complaining.
Yeah, but today I found out that one of his friends is doing really well after opening a really similar cafe in a really similar area. So it just makes me feel frustrated as to why every cafe owner in the world seems to be able to run their business better than Shane. He's so useless. That's what makes me think there must be something weird about him. Maybe he's cursed with some kind of bad luck when it comes to running a business.
Well, I've never tried to run a business before, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. But I think I do have an inkling as to why Shane is failing where others are succeeding.
Oh, Mom, if you're just going to say something mean that will just add fuel to the fire, don't say anything at all. I really don't appreciate you giving your opinion on things that you don't really know anything about. Which is why I prefaced with saying that I admit I don't know anything about running a business. But I can give my 2 cents as to why I think things haven't been going well for Shane.
Go on then, spit it out.
Well, whenever you start any kind of business, even if you're just selling socks on the side of the road, you need to think less about yourself and your individual needs and start thinking more about the needs of the business.
Well, I think that we were doing that quite well.
Do you really think so? Because it really didn't seem that way from my point of view.
What do you mean?
Well, running a business and being your own boss is different from working a regular 9-to-5 job as someone else's employee, right? When you have a regular 9-to-5, you go to work, do your work, and then you go home and you don't need to think about work again until you go in the next morning, right? But when you're running your own business, you never really stop working. You have lots of responsibilities and lots of things to take into consideration. But what did Shane do? He was really invested whilst he was first setting up the cafe. But then once everything was in place, he just decided to delegate everything to his employees and wash his hands of all responsibility. It's as if he thought after setting things up and having the grand opening, there was nothing left for him to do as manager. Don't try and tell me that he was just as dedicated as other cafe managers and whine about how it's a mystery that he went out of business, because it really isn't. His business failed because he spent more time going off to play golf than he did actually trying to manage the store. You can think of it like this. A parent has a child and is really attentive to them as a newborn and spends all day catering to their needs and playing with them. But once the baby becomes a toddler and starts being able to walk and talk, the parent starts to think that they will be okay without their full attention anymore and starts to leave the child on its own. If the child needs looking after, the parent just asks friends or neighbors to babysit them and goes off to have fun without giving their child a second thought, because they know that whoever they left them with will make sure that at least their basic needs are met. A child growing up like that is going to end up pretty messed up, right? Well, running a business is a similar concept. If you don't keep consistently putting everything into making sure that everything is going smoothly, things will start to go downhill fast.
I think you're seriously blowing things out of proportion here. Shane doesn't go out to play golf every day. He only goes once a week. Just because you were at the cafe one day he wasn't there because he was golfing and the employees looked a little rushed off their feet doesn't mean that's the reason he went out of business. We've never really been able to recover from the first time we went out of business. And do you know why that place went under?
Go on. Tell me.
Do you remember when Shane and I first said we'd be opening our own business 4 years ago? We were doing really well for the first 10 months, and even you were really excited for us.
Yes, I remember.
Do you also remember that around that time you were renting out the apartment downstairs? And you used the deposit money the tenant gave you to buy yourself that Hermes coat you wanted?
About that.
Well, I remember that very well. I also remember that you didn't expect that tenant to move out after only a year, not giving you enough time to earn back the deposit money you'd spent on that coat. And what I remember most above everything else is that you came running to me, asking me to give you the deposit money so you would be able to give it back to the tenant without any problems. Around the same time, the landlord of the building where we had the restaurant decided to increase the rent significantly. And because I had lent you that money, we fell behind in our rent payments. A bunch of other stores opened up in the area, and we also weren't able to keep up with the competition, as we had to cover our rent with the cost that we initially had reserved for making improvements to the cafe. So if you really think about it, this is the reason why the business failed, and it's essentially your fault, Mom.
Oh, well, of course it's all my fault, because you and Shane couldn't possibly ever do anything wrong. It always has to be someone else's fault, doesn't it? But anyway, what's the big deal? You can just start from scratch again like you did before, can't you? Shane's parents are rich, aren't they? You can just go and ask them for money to help you set up a new business.
No, we can't.
Why can't you?
Well, Shane's mom is mad at us for mismanaging the business, and she refuses to give us any more money.
I suppose I can't really blame her. She was right to stop you using any more of her money before you bleed her dry.
But if she doesn't give us any money, then how are we going to pay our bills?
Well, I don't know, do I? Why have you come to me about this problem?
You should know, Mom.
I'm not quite sure what you're talking about.
Stop playing dumb, Mom. I think it's about time you paid me back the money you owe me. Don't you think?
Well, I didn't know that money was a loan. I thought you were gifting me that money out of the goodness of your heart. You seriously wouldn't hand your own mother over a bit of money, would you? It's been almost 5 years since you gave me that money. Are you really asking for it back now?
Stop acting like you're not a complete freeloader, Mom. Every time you looked after the kids for us, we paid for your groceries for you, so you barely had to touch your own money. You've gotten so much from us over the years. You should be grateful that I'm just asking you to pay back the deposit money. Do you want me to show you exactly how much money we spent on your groceries over the last 5 years?
Well, I'm your mother. I think buying me some groceries every now and then is the least you can do.
Think of it like this. If you want me to ring the doorbell or warn you in advance when I'm coming over, you should be willing to pay me back what you owe me. You said that even though I'm your daughter, I should keep protocol as if I were a guest. So even though you're my mother, you should be prepared to pay me back when you owe me money. So there's the deposit money for the apartment downstairs, and then... Hang on, let me look at my notes on my phone. Oh, and there's also the deposit money from the other rental property that you couldn't afford to pay back the year before last. Oh, and then there's when the waterproofing needed to be redone at your house and you needed an extra couple $1,000s towards that.
Did you seriously write all of this down? You're such a cheapskate.
Well, I'm a little desperate here. I checked our joint bank account this morning and it won't be long now until we don't have enough money to live on. This is the only way I can think of to help us get back on our feet. If you pay us back, we'll just about be able to scrape by.
Well, I could give you a little bit of money, I guess. But paying you back all of that money at once would be a little difficult for me. And besides, even if I do pay you back everything you're asking for, it isn't going to last you very long, is it? You've probably spent the last 3 months since your business failed frittering what was left of your money away on useless things. And who's to say that you're not going to do that with my money as well? You need to find real jobs and find a way to properly make a living.
What do you expect me to do when I have no money and no prospects?
Well, tell Shane to go and work for his mom or something. Their restaurant is doing quite well, isn't it?
Mom, are you joking right now? How could somebody who used to be a manager and the owner of a whole store reduce himself to working as a mere waiter?
Oh, for goodness sake, Rihanna. Beggars can't be choosers, you know. And say that I am able to pay you back the money I supposedly owe you right away. It will help you out right now, but you can't live off it forever.
Well, I was planning on buying a waffle machine or something and starting to sell those. I still need money to get started, though. So you better pay me back, okay, Mom?
I can't believe my own daughter is here yelling at me to pay her back money that I had thought was a gift all of these years. If she's going to be so stingy, I should give her a taste of her own medicine and ask her to pay me for looking after her kids for her.
Stop the car here. Here? Yes, here. Now look at my fingers and pay close attention, okay? Now, the first floor is the most important floor, okay? That's because it's the floor I use as an example to showcase the property. Now, tell me which businesses there are on the first floor. There's a Greek restaurant, dry cleaners, a burger joint, a toy shop, and one empty unit. That's right. The empty place was originally a coffee shop, but it ended up going out of business and then was replaced by another coffee shop that also went out of business. Yes, I remember. We're right in the center of town and right by one of the busiest subway stations. This is a prime location. Yes, Grandma, it really is. We get a lot of foot traffic around here, and most of the people who live here are lower middle class. That's right. And are lower middle class people going to be going out to drink expensive coffee in coffee shops all the time? No, they're not. And they're going to be going out to work early in the morning and coming home late at night. So they won't have the time to go out and buy coffee anyway. And did you know that the burger place is completely self-service? You can just order on a screen, pay with your card or insert your cash, and then take your number. Yes, you showed me last time. So they get a lot of customers, but there's barely any human cost to run the place. That's the kind of place that makes money in this economy. Self-employment is on the decline these days. Why do you think that is? I'm thinking it's because they probably can't make enough money to sustain their business, pay their workers, and earn a profit. That's exactly right. It's just not sustainable in this day and age. Yeah, I've seen lots of things about it on the news these days. Yes, and as for independent coffee shops, nobody wants to go to those anymore. Although people really love to drink coffee, they much prefer to drink the branded stuff from big chain stores. If it's not branded, then people are simply just not interested. I've seen it firsthand watching the decline of not one, but 2 coffee shops in quick succession. I know, Grandma. You've mentioned this to me before. I really don't want to let any more coffee shops move into the mall. It's giving us a bad image. Units keep becoming empty because these coffee shops keep going out of business, and it makes me worry that other potential tenants are going to start thinking that my mall is unlucky. So we just have to confidently dispel those kinds of rumors. Okay? Yes, Grandma. Good girl. We need to make sure that the tenants are happy above everything else. If the tenants are happy, then I'm happy. And if I'm happy, the tenants are happy. If we have to lower their rent a little in order to make them happy sometimes, then that's also okay. Their loyalty is important to me. Yes, I understand. I'm very proud that you've managed to remember so much about how things work around here. Well, I have been watching you run this place for the last 30 years, so you could say that's more than enough time to have learned a thing or two. I'm going to make it so you're the official owner of half of this mall, and then when I'm gone, you can take over the whole thing. Are you ready for that responsibility? Of course I am, Grandma. We'll need to go to the notary's office today to get the documents signed. Is doing it officially some kind of statement to my dad? That you're frustrated at his constant refusals to take over this place and you've finally given up? No, that's not it at all. I just think that it's fitting to have this place go to my own flesh and blood. I know you're still worried about Dad, though. I am, but I know that if I make sure you're well provided for, he will make sure that he is well provided for. That way, I can leave him something without directly leaving him something, if you understand what I mean. Yeah, I think so. Whilst I'm still around, half of the profits from this place will still go to me. After I die, that half can go to your dad instead. In this situation, everyone wins. I agree. You can think of this as me taking you on as a new hire. Obviously, I'll make sure you're well taken care of. Thank you, Grandma. Are you happy? Of course I'm happy. I've got myself a job where I'll be making $3,000 a month in passive income. This is my gift to you and to your dad. Your dad is getting old too these days, so make sure you take good care of him. And don't forget that property management is a risky business. It's only a matter of time before it's all empty, and you'll have to invest a lot of money into this place's upkeep if you want there to be a quick turnaround of tenants. You'll also probably have to chase up people's debts. Yes, I know. Like I said, I've been watching you do this for a while now. And also remember that you should be doing a thorough background check on any potential tenants. It's especially important to find out whether they've previously managed somewhere that's gone out of business. We don't want people with a history of mismanaging businesses coming into our mall and giving a bad reputation when they inevitably run their next business into the ground as well. Even if someone you know asks you to let them move their business in here as a favor, you must say no if they have a bad track record. The reputation of this mall must come before any personal connections. I think that's all I have to say to you for now in regards to managing the place. Any questions? No, I think I understood everything. Okay, good. And I'm sure you don't need me to tell you again, but I will anyway. Make sure you're good to your old dad, okay? Of course I will, Grandma. I don't need you to tell me to do that. It just makes me worried now that you're married and living away from home. Your dad really didn't want to move in with me after your mom died, and he insisted on raising you all by himself. I'm the one who forced him to stay with me, and he agreed because he wanted to give you the most comfortable life possible. He never even remarried so he could focus all of his energy on being the best dad he possibly could for you. He really has given you his everything, so it's only fitting that you pay him back tenfold.
Of course I will. I really appreciate everything my dad has ever done for me.
Gabriella.
Yes, Grandma?
I'm sorry.
What for? Why are you suddenly apologizing out of the blue? Are you going to ask me to do something else for you now, so you're apologizing in advance?
Soon enough, I'm going to pass away and leave you behind. I'm an old woman now, and I'm not going to be around forever. I just want you to know that I feel guilty every single day for outliving my only daughter by so long, and my heart breaks that she was never able to see you grow into the beautiful young woman you are today. Sometimes I find it really hard to deal with the fact that I was the one who got to experience all the joys of watching you grow up, when she was the one who should have been there for you in those moments. Sometimes I feel responsible for you having grown up without a mother. I know there's nothing I could have done to prevent her from leaving us when she did, but I really can't help but feel as if you having to live without her is somehow my responsibility as her mother.
Of course it's not your fault, Grandma. And besides, it's thanks to you that I was able to have a happy life even without my mom being around. I'll do my best to manage this place well and make my grandma proud. I'll also be the best daughter I could possibly be to my dad. I'm sorry, Sandra, but it's a firm no.
I hadn't even finished talking yet! Why would you cut me off like that when you haven't even properly heard me out? Will you at least think about it?
Although I am the official owner of half the mall, it's not entirely mine. Half of the profit from the rent is still going to be going directly to my grandma. These are her wishes, and I have to respect them.
What makes you think that they're going to cause problems?
Well, from the outset, they've said that they don't want to pay the deposit, which is a huge red flag.
Well, is the deposit really important between family? Rihanna promised that her and Shane will work really hard so that they'll never have any problems paying the rent.
I don't doubt that they're hard workers, but I'm still standing my ground.
Rihanna has really come to think of you as her real sister, you know. Surely you can make an exception for her when she loves and respects you so much.
I really wish I could help her out, but I have to honor the promise I made to my grandma. I promised her that anyone who had ever run a business that failed or anyone who had ever been in debt to their landlord wouldn't be allowed to set up shop in the mall, regardless of my personal connection to them. This is a strict rule of my grandma's, and I don't intend to break it for Rihanna or anyone else.
Well, I think you're being ridiculously stubborn for no reason.
To be honest, even if my grandma hadn't made that rule, I would still be hesitant to let Rihanna and Shane open up a new store in our mall.
Excuse me? Are you saying that you think my daughter is an incompetent businesswoman?
That's not what I'm saying at all. Even if she was willing to pay the deposit, I still wouldn't accept her if her heart was set on running a cafe. In this economy, independent cafes simply just don't do well anymore. I don't really like the idea of letting Rihanna or anyone else open up a cafe in the mall when it's likely to go out of business within a year. That has nothing to do with Rihanna's capabilities as a businesswoman. I'm just simply stating facts based on the current economic climate. My grandma is also of the same opinion. The last 2 cafes to open in the mall both went out of business, and she doesn't want to have to deal with that again. Our priority is securing tenants who are going to stay in the building for a long time. With cafes, we can't guarantee that, so we would rather just avoid them altogether.
Well, there's no way that Rihanna and Shane's business is going to fail again. What makes you so confident that it will?
Well, of course I'm not saying that it definitely will, but I'm saying that if they decide to open another cafe, then it may be beyond their control. My grandma is really worried that people are going to start to think that MT Unit is cursed if another cafe moves in and goes out of business. She may have been slightly more lenient if it wasn't the exact same unit that the last 2 cafes were in, but the fact that it is that unit makes me even more inclined to say no. And not paying the deposit on top of that puts us in an even more difficult position.
The way you keep insinuating that my daughter is incapable of running a business well is really starting to upset me, you know. Don't go around thinking you can act all high and mighty just because you're the owner of a mall now.
I'm not trying to act high and mighty. I'm just trying to be practical. I went to Rihanna and Shane's old cafe 4 times with my friends, and 3 out of 4 times Shane wasn't there.
And the fourth time he was there, but Rihanna wasn't. Their employees also weren't really putting in much effort because they didn't have any motivation. That's what happens when the owners don't take responsibility for the running of a place. It was exactly the same when they were running that restaurant before. Well, maybe you went during quiet times when they didn't really need to be there. Oh no, I always went there in the late afternoon at the weekend, which is peak time. Every time I went there, they were rushed off their feet. So I was a little surprised at the state of things, to be honest. So, do you see why I'm not super keen on the idea of letting them start a new business in our mall without even paying the deposit? I understand that the fact that they went out of business 3 times doesn't look too good, but I promise you that this time they'll clean their act up and do things properly. I'm glad to hear it, but they can go and clean their act up somewhere else because they're still not moving into our mall. Why do you have to keep saying that when you don't know how things are going to go? They might do really well and help to boost your reputation. I promise you that they'll do their best. So please just let them move into that empty unit. I'm sorry, Sandra, but my answer is still no. I know that there is a good chance that they could really do well for themselves this time, but there's also still the possibility that they'll mess up again and we can't afford to take that risk. You have to understand that I'm also trying to run a business here, and doing favors for family members isn't one of my priorities. I also feel like they haven't thought about this properly and are just trying to jump at this opportunity without even thinking. Oh no! That's not the case at all! They've even gone to check out the location already, and they really love it. It's close to the subway, right in the center of town, and they would get lots of foot traffic. They're taking things really seriously this time, and they see lots of potential in this space. They've learned a lot from their past failures, and they're confident that they'll do well this time around. You're right, it is close to the subway, and it does get lots of foot traffic. And because of that, we already have 3 potential tenants who are not planning to open cafes and who are willing to pay the deposit wanting to sign a contract with us immediately. All the stuff now is to decide which of them is the best candidate. So you see, my grandma and I would just be losing out if we decide to give the place to Rihanna and Shane, who are refusing to pay the deposit. We have no intention of handing them the place for free when we have plenty of other options. I never said that I wanted you to give them the place for free! Obviously, they're going to pay rent. It's just the deposit that they're not going to be able to pay. You do know what the deposit is for, right? It's for us to take from if things go badly and they can't pay the rent. Why would I be willing to take them in, all things considered, when they're refusing to provide us with the security we would need to assure that we wouldn't have to be chasing them up for rent arrears? I really don't like how you have so little confidence in them. I'm just being realistic. I know it's harsh, but I told you that I'm not going to be making exceptions for family members. I also really don't know why you're advocating for them so much when you've been particularly vocal about criticizing them in the past. And besides, my grandma is the ultimate decision maker in the situation, and she isn't related to Rihanna in any way. Well, what if you could convince her to let you take over completely? That's not going to be happening whilst my grandma is still around, and nor would I want it to. Everything is written down in the legal documents if you'd like me to show you. I legally can't make any decisions about the running of the place if my grandma doesn't consent. And as I told you before, she is dead set on not letting another cafe move in. And she also doesn't want to deal with people who have a history of failed businesses. And that's why I'm telling you that there's no way the business is going to fail again. They know what went wrong the last few times, and they won't make the same mistakes again. And it's really great that they're trying their best to change. But I really don't see why they need to move into my grandma's mall. I don't know how many times I need to refuse before you'll finally get it into your head that I won't be making any exceptions to my grandma's rules for them. But it's not just your grandma's mall anymore, is it? It's your mall, too! And there are 28 units in the whole mall. Why aren't you willing to let us have just one? You really have done your research, huh? I feel like you're being really stingy here. And I find it really upsetting that you can treat your own family so coldly. I also find it upsetting that you claim to think of me as a real daughter, yet you continue to disregard my feelings on the matter and try and back me into a corner. Oh, stop overreacting. I had always thought that your grandmother had raised you well to be a well-mannered, considerate young lady. But now I realize that must not have been the case,
Considering how you're willing to insult your sister-in-law's capabilities and cruelly deny her the opportunity for a fresh start. I suppose this is what happens to girls who grow up without mothers.
I think you've really crossed a line there. My grandma raised me perfectly well, thank you very much. The fact that you've resorted to making jabs at me for being motherless just goes to show how little respect you really have for me. And that makes me really upset.
You think you're better than everyone else now that your grandmother has given you half of the mall, don't you? You and your grandmother both think you're too good to condescend to help out the likes of my daughter, don't you?
With all due respect, my grandma has no relationship with Rihanna at all. I think the only time they ever met each other was the wedding, where all they did was exchange a few words. I don't think she really owes her anything.
Well, so much for family being there for each other. What a disgrace. I heard you talk to my mom on the phone today.
Yeah, I did. Why are you asking?
Did you really have to talk to her like that?
I just said what I needed to say to get it into her head that I would not be letting Rihanna and Shane take over the empty unit in my grandma's mall. If I said anything out of turn, it was only in response to her unreasonable persistence.
I don't know why you got so upset about it. She sees you as her own daughter, so I don't think she was unreasonable to ask you for a favor.
She can ask, but it's perfectly within my rights to say no, is it not? Or am I supposed to just do whatever she says because I'm her daughter?
I do think that it is our duty to help her out when she asks us to do things for her. I understand why you may feel a little resentful about helping out my sister, but can't you just think of it as helping out my mom instead?
I don't know why you're acting as if you have a say in what happens with the mall. You're not the owner, are you?
I'm not trying to say that I am. I'm just saying that I think we should do what we can to help out my mom. It's not like she asks us for favors that often.
If you want to help them out so bad, why don't you just give your sister some money towards her new business venture?
I don't see why I'd need to do that when you have a perfectly good empty unit in your mall that they will be able to move into.
I also don't think you understand that even if I were to think of this as helping out your mom instead of your sister, I would still say no.
I don't think you understand that it's your duty to help them out when you have the means. My whole family is struggling a lot at the moment. My mom is also technically in debt to my sister at the moment.
And why is that my problem?
Well, your grandma has given you such a lucrative asset, and all we're asking for is for you to let my sister just have one of the units. Is that really too much to ask?
You keep talking as if it's you and I who are joint owners of the mall. But at the end of the day, you have absolutely no say in the matter. This is something that is up to me and my grandma to decide, and we both say no.
But we're a married couple. Surely my opinion on this should matter to you to some extent.
And what does your mom being in debt to your sister have to do with any of this?
Well, my mom said that she wouldn't be able to pay her back, but she would secure a place for her new business in our mall.
Oh, now you're outright saying it's our mall? I've told you time and time again that you have absolutely no claim on the mall. For the last time, the mall belongs to me and my grandma, and your family are a joke for thinking that they automatically have the right to open up a business in one of the units without even paying the deposit.
I think it's a bit rude of you to be calling my family a joke. I just thought they mattered a little more to you than this.
Your whole family are full of audacity. I don't know why your mom thinks that she has the right to go around promising your sister that she can secure her a place in a mall that she has absolutely no influence in running.
I think we all just thought that you would be willing to do a little more for her as her daughter-in-law.
Do you not think it's unreasonable for her to assume she has the right to decide that she can just give her daughter a unit in my grandma's mall? When she doesn't actually have anything to do with my grandma or the mall at all.
She was right. You really have started acting like you're better than the rest of us since your grandma made you official co-owner of the mall.
Well, owning a mall must be a pretty big deal if you and your mom are making such a big fuss about it. This is all because your sister refuses to write off a debt owed to her by her own mother, and said mother then starts making promises to her that she had no right to make in the first place. Your family really have outdone themselves this time.
I really don't appreciate you insulting my family.
Well, your family needs to stop being so weird about this whole situation, and then maybe I won't insult them anymore. Your mom needs to get this idea that we need to give in to all of her demands out of her head. She isn't acting like someone worthy of my respect, so I'm not going to give it to her just because she's older. And has she ever done anything to help us out that would make me want to help her out in return?
No, I don't think so.
Well, why would she? Once a child becomes an adult, it's their duty to do all they can for their parents to pay them back for raising them.
Well, I'm sorry, but your mom didn't raise me, so I guess I don't owe her anything. Also, there are plenty of parents out there who try and do little things to help out their adult children.
I've never seen anyone do that.
Well, that's because you've probably only ever seen other parents like your mom who are self-centered and unreasonable.
What did you just say?
I don't think it's right for her to refuse to take responsibility for the money she owes and then essentially shift it to me instead.
I really don't like how much you're attacking my mom's character today.
Well, she needs to realize that she has no right to be offering people a space in my grandma's mall.
You know, I've been thinking it's strange that your grandma gave you half of the mall now. Maybe she was in a rush to have it taken off her hands and decided to palm it off to you.
Oh no, that's not the case at all. Do you want to know the real reason why she's decided to give me half of the mall now and then leave it to me after she passes away? If she just wanted to get rid of it, she would have given it directly to my dad. But she worried that if she did that, you might do something to my dad in order to ensure that the mall ended up in my hands, and effectively yours as well. So that's why she decided to give the mall to me directly, to avoid any kind of foul play. Even though they're not related by blood, my grandma and my dad care about each other a lot, and they love each other as a mother and a son would love each other. You have no idea what lengths my grandma has gone to in order to make sure that my dad is going to be okay when she passes.
So are you saying your family is some kind of perfect example of family relationships and that my family are trash? Is that it?
My dad was only married to my mom for 4 years before she passed away. My grandma didn't hesitate to offer to let me and my dad come and live with her and sacrificed all her free time to help him raise me. They never expected anything from each other and helped each other out as best as they could because they had become a family. This is why I don't understand your mom and your sister's relationship. I think it's really unreasonable of your sister for her to expect your mom to pay back every last penny she supposedly owes. If things really are as you say they are, and children should pay their children back for raising them, then this is quite frankly the least she could do. But instead they're trying to pressure me to let them open the store in my mall and somehow get me to solve their problems for them.
Oh, whatever. Let's just stop talking about this now. You're being so salty for basically no reason.
I definitely have my reasons.
I couldn't get through to her at all. What am I going to say to Mom now?
Ugh, another call. This time it's Rihanna. I'm getting so sick of this whole situation. What's taking you so long? Hurry up and bring the tea over. We have a guest.
Sorry, ma'am. I'm on my way now.
Where's Graham, by the way?
I have no idea. I don't think he's come back from his walk yet.
I hope you like herbal tea, Sandra. Seeing how you do things around here, it really has made me realize why Gabriella is the way she is. A grandmother really isn't a replacement for a mother. She clearly hasn't been taught a thing about how to go on properly. Sandra? Yes? I would appreciate if you stopped talking about my daughter who passed away 30 years ago. Ah, yes, of course. I'm sorry. Oh no, I went and voiced my true feelings without thinking. I might have really gone and screwed up things for myself this time. So tell me, why have you come to see me today? Well, it's because your granddaughter is refusing to let my daughter open a business in the empty unit in your mall, and things have suddenly become very awkward between everyone. I really don't know what I'm doing here, begging this ancient lady to let Rihanna open her store. We're not even close. This whole thing just feels incredibly awkward. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that my granddaughter was going around making things awkward for her in-laws. Well, she is. Well, you seem to be quite uncomfortable over this whole debacle with the mall. Am I right? Yes, my feelings really have been hurt over this. Oh, no. We can't have your feelings getting hurt now, can we? Coming here was a good decision after all.
I should have known that it would have been easier to get through to an elderly person.
I think it would be best for me to take back the half of the mall that I gave to Gabriella and become the sole owner again. That way, there won't be any more discord between your granddaughter and the rest of your family. Will there?
Excuse me.
Well, when you think about it, the root of the problem is the mall, isn't it? If I remove the mall from the equation, then everything will go back to normal, won't it? I apologize on my granddaughter's behalf for causing you so much distress. She obviously isn't ready to manage the mall yet.
Oh, no. I don't think there's any need to go that far.
I know that the business world can be tough, and I wish your daughter the best of luck setting up her new cafe. But I think it's best if she finds an empty unit elsewhere. I'll take the building back off Gabriella's hands, and then peace in your family can be restored. I should probably take Gabriella herself back as well. Your son would obviously be much happier without her if she's going around sowing discord between him and his own mother and sister.
Oh, wait, no, that's not what I mean. As expected from the lady of the manor. Formidable as always. She's not the type to be sympathetic towards this kind of pathetic begging.
And just like that, I got divorced without having been married for even a year. The mall that my grandma and I manage is quite different from other malls in the area, because you need to put down a higher than average deposit, but we'll be paying lower than average rent. This led my sister-in-law, who had already run 3 businesses into the ground with her husband, to try and get my mother-in-law to beg me to let her open her business in one of the empty units in the mall. My husband wasn't even on my side, and the 3 of them were relentless in trying to pressure me to give in to them. I realized that as long as I was in possession of that mall, I would never have a moment's peace being married into that family. So I decided that the best thing to do would be to file for divorce. Keeping hold of that building and managing it well for my grandma and my dad's sakes is way more important to me than my relationship with the husband who clearly doesn't respect me. I also realized that I want to focus all my attention on making sure my grandma and my dad have the best life possible. And being married and having to deal with my in-laws was just getting in the way of that. Sometimes I do wonder if I was a little too harsh with my judgment of my sister-in-law, and maybe she would have finally done a good job of running a business. But even if I was too harsh, I have my priorities, and unfortunately for her, she was not one of them. In those moments where I start feeling sorry for her, I have to remind myself of how nasty and pushy my in-laws were towards me, and I reassure myself that getting a divorce was the best decision I could have possibly made in that situation. My mother-in-law kept bringing up that I must be lacking in some way because I grew up without a mom, but I have never once seen that as a handicap, because I always received so much love and support from my grandma and my dad. However, I would be lying if I said that losing my mom at a young age didn't leave a scar on my heart, and the fact that my in-laws were consistently insensitive about my mom's death made me even more resolved to get away from that family. The nail in the coffin was my mother-in-law going to my grandma's house and thinking she had the right to talk about my mom's death in front of her and even criticize the way she raised me. I no longer want anything to do with this ridiculous family.
Gabriella, I need you to do me a favor.
Why are you calling me when we have nothing to do with each other anymore?
Would you please just let me work as a cleaner in your mall? Just for the next 2 years.
Why? Do you need the money? Are the tenants in your rental property not paying their rent?
I don't think I'm going to be able to rely on that anymore.
But you've been living just fine on that money until now, haven't you?
She's obviously squandering her money on something.
Maybe she's buying designer clothes she can't afford again. Or maybe she can't afford to pay Rihanna what she owes her.
Rihanna and Shane have taken over my rental property, saying I owe them and it's part of me paying back my debt. But if they just take the money from the rent as repayment, it will take me 2 whole years to pay them back everything.
They really are being far too harsh to you. A mother shouldn't have to resort to taking on extra work to pay back money lent to her by her own daughter. I also can't believe that she would be as heartless as to take your rental property away when she knows that's your only source of income. I suppose that's what you get when you go around treating people the way you do. Sorry, we already have enough cleaners for them all. I don't have anything else left to say to you, so I'll be hanging up now.
Please don't be like this.
I'm going to have to block you to make sure that your whole family don't come and harass me about this either. I'm also going to make sure that your son pays me all the alimony I'm owed, and I won't be sparing a thought for your unfortunate economic situation. I'm warning you. Stay away from me.
Who's there?
It's only me! What are you doing lying around in the living room?
What are you doing barging in here without even knocking?
I think I need to remind you that this is my house, actually.
Even if you do technically own this place, it's only fair that we get to manage it and collect the rent if you're not going to pay back what you owe us.
But that doesn't explain what you're doing here right now.
I'm here because I'm avoiding Shane. We had an argument because he thinks that your debt will be paid back too slowly if we take it in the form of the rent for this place. He's so annoying. At least we're getting the money somehow.
Well, it's comforting, at least, to know that my misfortune is causing you misfortune. Shane's family is probably sick of putting up with you now that our family well and truly has no money.
Wow, way to kick me whilst I'm down, Mom. It's all because of you that I've had to run away from my husband and hide in this depressing little place, and you don't have a single word of comfort to offer me?
Is it my fault that you ran 3 businesses into the ground and are now left with nothing?
Mom, please. I don't want to hear it. Why is it so cold in here? I hate this.
Oh, would you look at this? You don't see either child for ages, and then they both pop up at once.
Are you not going to answer it?
It's your brother. I don't feel like talking to him.
But why?
Because of me, his wife divorced him and he lost his opportunity to make some money from managing that mall. So he's been trying to get me to let him be the one who gets the rent from this place instead of you.
Well, that's ridiculous. At the end of the day, it's his own fault that his wife divorced him.
Don't go around saying that in front of him, okay? He's blaming you for his situation as well, you know. When he found out I was already letting you take the money for this place, he was so mad.
He has no right to be going after other people's money. He really is a piece of work. He should know that the money from this place is the only thing saving me from getting divorced as well and be happy for me.
How about you just get divorced as well? Then how about you forget about my debt to you and we just split the rent money and use it on ourselves?
Shall I just do that then?
Yeah, just do it. Getting divorced really isn't a big deal these days. If you're lucky, you'll meet someone nice and rich. I heard that Shane's parents' business isn't doing very well anymore. There's no point on staying aboard a sinking ship.
Yeah. There really is no reason to stay with them, is there? I'm still young and I'm still pretty. I definitely have a chance of meeting a better, richer guy.
Exactly. So hurry up and go file for divorce.
It's not too late for you either, Mom. You could find yourself a rich guy, too.
You really think so?
Of course. And now that Harry is single, too, the 3 of us can all try and marry rich people and spend the rest of our lives living in luxury. Call Harry now and the 3 of us can meet up and come up with an Operation Get Rich plan.
Okay, great. I'll tell Harry to come over to my place, so you should hurry up and get the divorce proceedings started.
Okay, Mom. I'll go and talk to him about it now. It probably shouldn't take long to get the ball rolling.
I know an old guy who lives around here who owns a lot of real estate, so he'll probably be a good place to start. You're okay with older men, right?
Yeah, I don't really mind. But if it has to be an older man, I prefer someone on the brink of death so I can get my hands on his assets faster.
If we're going to go with someone that old, maybe it's better for me to try and seduce them. That way it will seem less suspicious and I will be a less obvious gold digger.
That sounds like a plan. Make sure you split whatever you get with me, though.
Of course, of course. You're my daughter. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.